Excellent. So my title of the talk is No Enduring Self, but Enduring Patterns. Um, and so on Sunday, we spoke about the inevitability of us each having enduring patterns. And, there's a lot of possible explanations for this. And here's just a few that came to my mind, which is karma. And that's a very Buddhist word, actually, from the East, from Asia. Many other religions in Asia use that term as well. And, when I think about karma, I don't think you have to think about that there's many lifetimes, etc. You don't have to believe that teaching. But the way I think of it is, it's like these patterns, some of them just feel ancient, like they've always been here and will maybe always be here. Um, Now, modern science has another explanation for this. They call it epigenetics, which I am not studied in. But basically, that is an understanding that experience, and maybe especially trauma, goes down through generations and actually changes our genes, our genetics. So, and then that gets passed along. And here's a little quote that I pulled. In recent years, we've seen, by the way, this is from the National Library of Medicine. In recent years, we have seen an increasing amount of evidence pointing to the existence of a non-genetic heredity of, oh, that's funny, non-genetic, okay, of effects of events such as separation from parents, threat to life, or other traumatizing experiences such as famine. This heredity is often mediated by epigenetic regulations of gene expression and can be transferred across several generations. So in my own practice as a psychotherapist, I really see a lot of intergenerational trauma. I'm not sure how it gets passed down through the generations. I imagine that also is a complex process. And then we could turn to neurology, and they've mapped out the brain patterns that underlie habits. But I'm not going to try to discern which factor is the correct one, because there's so many forces at play that lead to these enduring patterns, more than I think we can imagine or quantify or know. Here I am at the teaching of conditionality, the teaching which is the basis of reflective meditation, that how things come to be is based on many conditions. But I'm not sure the point here is, where do these habitual patterns originate from? I don't think the point is how to eradicate them, not only because some of these habitual patterns are useful and helpful, but also because I think we can't eradicate a lot of them. And that idea that we could is a recipe for failure. I think more the point here is how to live with these enduring patterns without so much harm to ourselves and to others, and really to discern which habit patterns cause harm. And of course, it's not just one or the other. It's everything mixed in between and much more complicated. Cause some harm, but some benefit, etc., etc. So the word for these enduring habit patterns in the Pali language, which is the language in which early Buddhism is written, is sankara. That's the Pali word. And that's translated as habit patterns or karmic patterns, which is what I was talking about. So then this touches into another Buddhist teaching, which I don't have the time to go into. It would take quite a bit of time, but about the aggregates. And, there's supposedly 5 aggregates, and the aggregates are aspects that makes us cling to a sense of having a self. So I'm thinking the alternative to being with these enduring patterns and trying to eradicate them, or just kind of, just feeling completely victimized by them or whatever, is this process of becoming less identified with them. That sense of, this is what I have to work with, this is what I'm responsible for, this is what I sometimes tolerate or endure, but they're not exactly who I am. So I came up with a couple of examples from my own life, which is, often where we get our examples and where we hope you get your examples, where we find the Dharma. So I realized, okay, here I am. Right now, I'm in the habit of writing a Dharma talk. I do a couple of weeks, a couple each week. So there's one like this one where I'm doing it on my own. The other one I co-create with Linda. Now, this takes a fair amount of effort, but it's not very stressful, as it might be for other people to do it. And this pattern, and it's a demand, has become a habit for 4 years. I think it's a good habit. It feels good to me, seems good for me. That having to be focused feels good. And the stretch of getting this down in words feels good. And most of all, it feels good to feel a little closer to the Dharma. And hopefully, and it seems like I've heard feedback in this way, that these talks are good for you, and hopefully good for whoever listens to them on our podcast. We don't get so much feedback on them. I'm going to switch to another habit of mine. So last night I couldn't fall asleep very quickly because I had a stomach ache. And I wondered, how did I get this stomach ache? Oh, I did eat a lot of dried fruit last night for my dessert. So I'm trying to get away from this desire for sugary desserts, and I've replaced them with dried fruits. Maybe that pattern is also not so good for me. At least I think I took it a little too far last night. So, that's just one of my habits that I struggle with. I could find others, but it was very current because it was last night. And, I'm sure each of you have some habits that you struggle with, that you feel that hurt you or hurt others. Maybe as minor as a stomach ache, but maybe much more, pervasive than that. So a problem with these habits, and this is very in line with Buddhist teachings, the problem is as we cling to them, this is who I am. Look at me. I'm somebody who can write 2 Dharma talks a week over 4 years' time. Aren't I special? Or the reverse, I could feel bad about myself. I used to write way more than 2 Dharma talks early in the pandemic. Why can't I do that now? So you can see how those are taking up this habit of writing the Dharma talks and turning it into who I am as problems, big potential problems. And the same thing with the other example I used of, craving sugar. And then it could go to self so easily. What's the matter with me that I can't resist sugar? In other words, I'm putting the blame on me rather than the fact that sugar is biologically addictive, and it is all around us. It's hard to, it's everywhere. And, here's something that's really ironic. I didn't used to be addicted to sugar till I went on a retreat. This was a long time ago in the 1980s, a meditation retreat. And it was 3 weeks, and I took the vow of not eating after noon. That's one of the vows you take if you're doing more advanced practice, advanced discipline. But the thing is, I was told it was okay to eat hard candy after noon. That was part of how it worked in Asia. I ate a lot of hard candy afternoon, in the evening, afternoon, evening. That is the point at which I became addicted to sugar. So was that about myself? I don't think so. It was about, what I was told was okay by my meditation teacher and by the tradition. Anyway, seems like this talk keeps leading me back to the teaching on conditionality. And that's because I've really learned to see much of my experience through the lens of conditionality. And by the way, this teaching on conditionality is the core teaching in reflective meditation. Now, I think this one has been a very beneficial habit to see my experience through the lens of conditionality. So I'm going to end the talk there. And